Well, first of all, why should you care about getting famous? I thought about this in connection with a fundraising event I attended once. Fundraising event for raising money to save Venice from going underwater and having all of its art destroyed. Anyway, I was sitting here, and JC was sitting here. That was Julia, the late Julia Child. And as the evening wore on, more and more people would come up and ask Julia to autograph something or express a feeling that she had changed their life, and it just happened over and over again. So eventually, I turned to Julia and I said, "Miss Child, is it fun to be famous?" And she thought about it for a second and she said, "You get used to it." But you know what? It occurred to me, you never get used to being ignored. So here's a way to think about it. Your ideas are like your children, and you don't want them to go into the world in rags. So what you want to do is to be sure that you have these techniques, these mechanisms, these thoughts about how to present the ideas that you have so that they're recognized for the value that is in them. So that's why it's a legitimate thing to concern yourself with packaging. Now, how do you get remembered? Well, there's something I like to call Winston star. And every one of the items I'm about to articulate starts with an S. So if you want your presentation ideas to be remembered, one of the things you need to do is to make sure that you have some kind of symbol associated with your work. So this arch example is actually from my PhD thesis many, many years ago. And in the course of my work at that time, this work on arch learning became mildly famous, and I didn't know why. It was only many years later that I realized that that work accidentally had all of the elements on this star. So the first element is that there was a kind of symbol. It's the arch itself. Next thing you need is some kind of slogan, a kind of phrase that provides a handle on the work. And in this case, the phrase was one-shot learning. And it was one shot because the program I wrote learned something definite from every example that was presented to us. So in going from a model based on this configuration to something that isn't an arch based on that configuration, the program learned that it has to be on top. One-shot learning. So that's a symbol, slogan, and now we need a surprise. Yeah, the surprise is you don't need a million examples of something to learn. You can do it with one example if you're smart enough to make use of that example appropriately. So that was the surprise. You can learn something definite from each example. Next item was a salient idea. Now, when I say salient idea, I don't mean important. What I mean is an idea that sticks out. Some theses, funnily enough, have too many good ideas, and you don't know what it's all about because which one is it? So you need an idea that sticks out. And the idea that stuck out here was the notion of a near miss. You see, this is not an arch, but it doesn't miss by much. So it's a near miss. And finally, you need to tell the story of how you did it, how it works, why it's important. So that's a bit on how to, not so much get famous, but how to ensure that your work is recognized.